off on them. Yeah. Oh, you gotta let it, we gotta put him in. We gotta have, so just make sure you have some lunch with him too.
At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, January the 4th of 2022. City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have with us in the chambers District 2, Grady Simpson. District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. District 5, Tim Royce, Mayor Pro Tem. And I've been told that District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas is delayed and will be here and join us shortly. This time, I'd like to introduce Pastor Gary Weems from the Rock Church. If you would please come forward and lead us in invocation. Wish everybody a happy new year and that we all have a good and prosperous 2022. If you would lead us in invocation, please.
Thank you, sir. Shall we bow our heads? Father, we thank you for this significant occasion on this first Tuesday of 2022. As a community, we ask your blessings upon us. We are thankful for what you have done for us last year, but your word declares that our steps are ordered. And I ask you, God, to direct this council and those that are in authority to give us wisdom and direction for the blessings that you have in store for our community. Let a hedge of protection be upon those that are in leadership, upon our enforcement officers and fire department and those in authority. Breathe upon us with your presence. Direct our steps with wisdom and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. As we begin our new year of 2022, I want to take a moment and thank staff for their hard work in 2021. I also want to thank them for the gifts that they put together for the council, the blanket, the coffee cup. I got something special in mine, I think, extra, but no, I'm teasing. They treated us all equal, and we certainly appreciate that. Be mindful of the fact that 2022 is going to be fast-paced and moving for us all. Got a lot of pressure development-wise. Got a lot of goals as it relates to public improvements, as it relates to park improvements or downtown area. And so expect to be working hard on behalf of those who elected us. Does anybody have anybody that they would like to recognize at this time? Hearing none, we'll hear remarks from visitors. Do we have any? We have none, so we'll move on. Our next item on the agenda is 6.1, discuss and consider minutes of the special city council meeting and workshop on December the 14th of 2021 and the regular city council meeting on December the 14th of 2021. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting on December the 14th and the workshop on December the 14th.
We have a motion from Tim Royce, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, District 5. Hold on, I got something wrong. Yeah, this one's not right. District 5, yeah, that's correct. Of approval of the minutes for both the special city council and the regular city council held on December the 14th of 2021. Is there a second?
A second.
A second from Grady Simpson. District 2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is discuss and consider selection of Mayor Pro Tem. As you know, in the past, council has, you can come forward, Councilwoman. She's going around. Let's wait until she gets back in. For the record, District 4 Stephanie Holmes Thomas is now with us. We were just beginning to discuss and consider selection of Mayor Pro Tem. I was just going to say that it has been traditional for the council to yearly look at Mayor Pro Tem, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and those titles as it relates to the council. It is my opinion that we should move forward and go ahead and appoint a new Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to thank Tim Royce from District 5, who's done an outstanding job in that role. At the same time, we're also going to look at the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, who was Mayrani Velasquez from District 3. In the past, what we've done is we've rotated up from Deputy Mayor Pro Tem to the Mayor Pro Temship, and then elected a council member to serve as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. If there's no objection, I would like to recommend, and I guess I'll need a motion from someone to move Mayrani Velasquez from District 3 up to Mayor Pro Tem, and then we'll address the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem in 7.2. So does anybody have any discussion on 7.1? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we appoint Mayrani Velasquez, District 3, to Mayor Pro Tem.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is discuss and consider selection of Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. As I stated earlier, we usually choose someone from the council, and I think Stephanie Holmes Thomas would be in that rotation for Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any discussion from anyone?
I would be in support of Stephanie moving into the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Anyone else? Hearing none, is there a motion for item 7.2?
Mayor, I move to sign and appoint Stephanie Holmes Thomas to serve as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Terrell.
We have a motion from now Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Mayrani Velasquez, District 3. No, yeah, we voted. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, District 3. Did I say that wrong? What I meant to say was I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem District 3, Mayrani Velasquez. I guess I'm used to saying deputy. I apologize for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a second from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Thank you for that selections and moving forward. Our next item on the agenda is to discuss and consider rules of procedure, conduct, and decorum at meetings of the City Council of Terrell, Texas. This will be handled by Mary Gill Ramsey.
Mayor and Council, the rules of procedure, conduct, and decorum at the meetings of the City Council is before you. We're doing this in accordance, and at the same time we're going through this redistricting process, and it sets forth how we hold how the City Council holds their meetings, All the meetings are open to the public and to representatives of the press and the media. The only thing that is not open to the public are executive sessions. It states when the meetings are on Tuesdays of each month at 6:00 p.m. and how, at meetings of the council, how to place items on the agenda, filed with the city secretary and approved by at least one member of the council by noon on the Tuesday preceding the regular meeting of the council. It talks about how business is conducted with the council. If members of the public wish to speak, the agenda items, and if there are a number of individuals that want to speak and have the same interest, that we request, that the council requests that they appoint a representative. All meetings are open to the public, provide open access to the citizens to address the council and express themselves on issues under consideration by the council. It says in subsection E that it's not the intention of the council to provide a public forum for the demeaning of any individual or group, and that the mayor shall be the presiding officer of the council. And then there includes special rules for the press and media, town hall meetings, public hearings, who shall serve as the bailiff, things of that nature. Mainly things that we're operating under right now. There's also on the back attached a public participation form that you fill out if you want to speak before the council, and that is up for your consideration tonight.
So, you don't have to be a citizen of the city of Terrell to address the council. That's not a requirement. Anyone can address the council. That's correct?
Mayor and Council, I might also note for you that, remember, this policy you're adopting, it refers to this public participation form as a sample, because of course it will vary from time to time based on what might be on the agenda and what kind of public hearing we might be having. Sometimes, as you know, we're in the habit of not using a for or against. Sometimes we're just asking, do you have a question? Do you want information? That sort of thing. So it is specifically referred to as a sample just for that reason, because for different events you may have slightly different public participation forms.
And these are guidelines so that if we wanted to give more time to individuals, let's say we have a room full and we've got a policy of 6, but if we wanted to hear from everyone by a motion of one of the council members to amend the rules or suspend the rules and allow for more to speak, we could do so.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any comments or questions on procedures, conduct and decorum? No, hearing none. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve item 7.3.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Mayrani Velasquez, District 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is 7.4, discuss and consider the Kaufman County contracts related to the 9th Street Residential Partnership Public Improvement District Number 3 and the 9th Street Residential Partnership Maintenance Public Improvement District Number 4. Mr. Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, as y'all know, we have an area that I guess you could roughly call south of town north, but north of Eulalia. That's the area where in the future 9th Street will go through. Obviously, that's a major and important thoroughfare connection for us to get 9th Street all the way up to the high school. And in fact, it extends onto the road that's basically nicknamed Whit Ranch Parkway. So in order to get that done, we did have a housing development partner several years ago come forward and say, okay, they could build that road, but we needed to put together a financial structure for that. The financial structure at the time included 2 public improvement districts, which were duly approved by City Council as petitions came in, and then there's a development agreement on top of that land as well. So the last step in creating all of that financial structure is having a contract in place with Kaufman County for them to actually collect the money. So how do we do that? This is the template form that the county always uses for tax collections. And you can see in here how they handle these agreements. You're basically saying that you're going to trust Kaufman County to collect the taxes for you, that you're going to provide a payment to Kaufman County for them to do that. That's exactly the same payment that we make. So all of that is based on formulas down to the county level. It sets up how to communicate what the taxing unit is going to set as the taxing rate. Remember that each year you'll be voting on the amount of the tax rate associated with these. Gives you some rules for how the refunds are handled. And then, of course, that important issue about, well, what if somebody doesn't pay their taxes? How do we do that? That's where that delinquent tax collection provision comes in. So again, we don't really make edits to these. This is simply the requirement that we have from Brenda Samples as your Kaufman County tax assessor collector. As you can see, basically both of them have an Exhibit A where it tells you the formula for which they're going to calculate our costs. There's probably around 500 parcels at build-out with this, and so you can do that little bit of math in your head and say, well, wait a minute here. I've got parcels with Kaufman County times $1.50. Well, that's not going to be that much, right? So $1.50 per parcel multiplied by around 500 parcels. That's basically the cost of this contract for us. So it's very cost effective, and it's just a way that we make sure that taxes are collected correctly for those two public improvement districts. And just to be clear, we did bundle these as one agenda item, so you'll need to make one motion that is both PID number 3 and PID number 4.
Okay. So Mike, you had mentioned that this is a standard agreement that the county has, I'm guessing with all municipalities that have these PIDs, and we're not overpaying or underpaying per parcel.
No, correct. This is the same formula that they use for everybody else.
Okay, cool, thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 7.4?
The only question I have at this time is there's no expiration date to the contract. Once it's set in place, it continues until there's a decision to terminate the contract. Should there be?
That's correct, and I think maybe also of importance to note is we'll do the public improvement districts that were already in place. Do those have expiration dates? The maintenance public improvement district does not have an end date associated with it. The capital public improvement district, basically it helps finish paying for the major roadway infrastructure out there, Creekside and 9th Street, and when that's done, then the capital public improvement does retire. And that means that I believe PID number 3 would be eliminated at that time.
Sims,
Mm-hmm.
did you state that both of these PIDs need to be stated separately?
You did, one motion will be fine, just say and.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's for Public Improvement District number 3 and 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion on 7.4?
Mayor, make a motion that we approve the items discussed in 7.4, and that being the approval of the 9th Street PID number 3 and 9th Street PID number 4.
Thank you, Councilman. We have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second? Have a second from Grady Central, District 2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. It's to conduct a public hearing related to the Community Resilience Program grant application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. This is going to be handled by Emergency Management Coordinator Dustin Connor.
Good evening. Glad to be here with you again. This is a project that we brought to you a couple of weeks ago for a mobile health clinic, a grant program that we saw an opportunity with, and we are going to use public management. That was the action that we took this last time. So Jake McAdams, who we've worked with before, is here with us today to answer any questions and handle the public hearing, and then the next item also. Jake?
Okay. So does, go ahead, Mr. Adams, McAdams?
McAdams.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to relate to the council? And
Just briefly, if council would allow to go through this item for the public hearing, to inform y'all a little bit more what this grant application is and what exactly it is I'm doing up here tonight. This is for the Community Resiliency Program grant application. This is a very unique grant opportunity for the city and throughout the state. This is being administered by the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. The money for this program is actually leftover CARES Act money, okay? And so that is the stimulus that was appropriated underneath Trump's administration, that first COVID stimulus. The state had a balance of that money, so they have configured a new program, a one-time only program, to hopefully expend all of that. As Dustin mentioned, in consideration with staff and with council, it was determined to consider applying for a mobile health clinic. Dustin and I reached out to a couple of different vendors. We do have a quote for that mobile health clinic. It is reflected in that very simple budget sheet in your packet tonight. That vehicle is approximately $709,000. And then that admin line auto-calculates, but that is anticipated to be our fee, generally, give or take a little bit. There will be some publication costs, some other miscellaneous costs that will come out of that total dollar amount. The application amount we're submitting for is that $765,658.44. The maximum grant request the city had for this was $5 million, but we could only submit an application for one vehicle, okay? Based upon the needs, the mobile health clinic, in line with the grant program's allowances, was identified as the need. Something else unique is this is a 0% matching grant, okay? And so the city is requesting grant funds for this entire vehicle for all associated costs with an anticipated 0% match. The application is due January 19th of 2022, and so very quickly approaching. We also anticipate having information whether or not the city will be awarded very quickly. If the city is awarded, we anticipate a grant contract may start in the middle of March of 2022. As soon as that grant contract is awarded, we'll be coordinating with staff to get rolling on the procurement of this vehicle, because the vehicle currently has a 300-day delivery date from the date the order is given to issue the vehicle. The grant agreement term is a little bit flexible, but they want this money spent and the vehicle delivered as soon as possible, ideally in 9 months from the grant award date. I have already had extensive conversations with the funding agency, informing them about the supply chain challenges. The agency is riding a little bit by the seat of their pants. They're kind of figuring out some of the rules to this as they go. With that being said, they have reiterated a few times to me directly, we understand there are supply chain challenges. We want to work with each and every grant recipient in order to expend these dollars and purchase the needed equipment and facilities to help them respond to and mitigate the effects of COVID. That is the purpose of this grant, is to respond to, mitigate the effects of COVID-19. If there are any questions from the mayor, council, staff, the public, certainly would be willing to try to address those.
Yes, real quickly, are we competing against other municipalities for this grant? Is that Texas-wide or?
Yes, sir. And so the city of Terrell, if y'all approve this next item for the resolution, the application is submitted. Terrell will be competing against all other non-entitlement cities in the state of Texas. All right?
Entitlement meaning?
Non-entitlement meaning those cities with populations less than 50,000. okay? And so the smaller cities, we are not competing against Dallas, we are not competing against Rockwall, against Mesquite, okay? The smaller cities, population's less than 50,000. With that being said, there are going to be, for several reasons, relatively little competition for this program, okay?
You're gonna be awarded 1, 2 cities, or how?
So they have, oh goodness, I should have known you were gonna ask me that. I believe they have $38 million that is able to award out. The maximum grant request is $5 million, okay? I would be surprised if they have enough qualifying applications to actually award all $38 million. I've been surprised before plenty of times, and so I could, be surprised.
So more than one city can
Yeah.
be, and they'll be allocated 765,000 plus for the grant.
Right, so as a firm, we are currently working on 4 of these applications. Terrell is the only vehicle purchase that we're working on. The other 3 are facilities improvements. One, I think, in the company is $5 million. The other 2 applications we're working on are between $1.5 and $3 million, which is, I think it's going to be relatively rare that the state receives the applications they want to see that sum to $5 million. And so I anticipate most of the applications will probably be in the $1 to $2.5 million range.
Oh, Mr. McAdams or Destin, does a vehicle like this currently exist in the county?
No.
Okay, so we would be the first one. I like the idea, just like we did with the hub, to getting not only the city ready, but it was beneficial to the county when we did the vaccine hub here in Terrell, because we had all of that paperwork done. So I'm supportive of moving forward with it. But I don't know if it's on a point system, do we get any extra points if we're gonna be able to use it not only in the city of Terrell, but within the county?
No, sir, that's a great question, and that is something that Dustin and I have discussed. As the program is structured, the grant is being awarded to the city of Terrell for the city of Terrell to purchase a vehicle to benefit the residents of the city of Terrell. I've discussed that with the agency. They've said, under extraordinary circumstances, the vehicle can be used for purposes not originally intended, but that really has to be extraordinary circumstances outside of COVID as we understand it. Because the county would also be able to submit an application to this program as well, if they so choose.
So, and then the other question I have on the vehicle, how's it gonna be staffed? Are we gonna have to hire some folks? Are we gonna need to train some people, or is that the fire department, or?
We'll handle the training within the fire department and emergency management.
Okay.
And we'll staff it with, it'll be a city employee that moves the vehicle when it needs to be moved, but it may be staffed with, no different than we did the vaccination hub. We'll have people from across the region coming to work, or using Texas Military Force, or whoever it is, but the vehicle will be moved by city staff.
Where would it be housed? Do we know?
Yeah, Station 2.
Station 2, okay.
I think the main purpose you're going to see for this is our major employers, our schools, the Trinity Valley Community College campus, anywhere we've got a lot of people all in one place. It's going to be very convenient to take this vehicle out there and provide direct customer service to those folks who might need it in that sort of environment. I can imagine us going to our city parks. You go to Breezy Hill, you go to Arley White, you go to a handful of the other parks, provide a mobile clinic at that location. I think it'll be absolutely very, very helpful for us. I don't like to look forward to fighting COVID for the next year, but if we're going to, we may as well have all the weapons available for us, and this would be a great weapon.
Sure. No, I agree.
So I also have a couple of other questions.
Go ahead, yes.
So was glad to hear that you answered one of my questions on what other projects you're seeing. It sounds like they're all facility improvements. Are those facility improvements to health? It sounds like healthcare related.
Yes, ma'am. And so, just to be clear, throughout the state, I do anticipate a lot of vehicle purchases requested. But a lot of those purchases I anticipate to be ambulances. The city of Terrell does not operate its own ambulance service. And so that wouldn't necessarily be applicable, but talking to the state, they do expect other vehicle purchases. Within the company, the balance of our applications vary. The other application I'm personally working on is a senior citizen center that is going to be remodeled to function in part as a non-congregate shelter in response to COVID. The other facilities, honestly, I'd be lying if I told you exactly what they are. Those are being run out of our Houston office, but I know one of which is more direct health related than like a senior center. Everything does have to be directed toward COVID. How are we going to take this improvement that has really been considered for at least some amount of time that will assist the city respond to COVID and benefit the residents from COVID?
And is it that every entity can only submit one request? Could we have submitted two requests if they don't have enough requests and they decide to extend this opportunity? Would we be able to submit a second, third request up until it reaches the 5 million cap?
Yes, ma'am. So the state has already extended the application deadline once. The original application deadline, I believe, was November 30. And they extended that to January 19. I think it's unlikely they would extend it a second time past the January 19 due date for some federal budgetary reasons. If they do, then yes, I think the city could consider submitting another application to that. The city could submit multiple applications depending on what you wanted to submit for. The biggest challenge with the way they structured this application and this program is it really needed to be shovel ready. And so it's one of those things that if some degree of review, forethought, preliminary design has not been completed really as of mid-November, the way they've structured it, it is extremely unlikely that an application could be put together. And if it was put together, it's quite likely the state would determine it was not shovel-ready enough to meet their minimum scoring requirements.
That makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
So wondering about staff utilization and resident-facing services. What does our application, since both have been working on it, what does our application say that what services are we expected to provide based on the purchase of the project, or the purchase of the vehicle if the project is approved? And then on the receiving end, what does that mean for those residents?
So the intent of the vehicle was for mobile testing and mobile vaccination. Those were the primary pieces because those are two things that we're already involved in. They're projects that we already have plans for. They're things that we're familiar with, which helped us sell that this is a shovel-ready project, right? It's not a project or it's not something that we're trying to put together and that we're only going to be able to do if we receive this vehicle. This is something that we're already doing. Like Mr. Sims said, this is just another tool for us. when we go to these large industries or when we go to the city parks, instead of setting up a pop-up tent and hoping that the weather's nice, this gives us an opportunity to go anywhere in town and have the ability to get out of the weather if we need to, a place for us to prepare the equipment if we are operating outside. So the initial plan, or the plan right now, is that it'll be used for testing and vaccination.
For testing and vaccination. And have two more questions. Since the funding is supposed to be specifically for the use of this vehicle, and we don't, for COVID-related, addressing COVID-related issues, we don't, well, we don't anticipate COVID to be around to the extent that it is now. So, and I know a vehicle only lasts for a specific time frame, but is there?
There is a reporting requirement. There is a usage requirement. And so if the grant gets funded, the city will have to submit, and we will certainly assist the city in doing this, but have to submit annual reports for a period of 5 years after the vehicle is delivered and put in service, reporting that the vehicle is being used for its originally intended purpose. And so there is a 5-year reporting period. After that, hopefully the vehicle is still usable, that maintenance operation has been continued on it despite the COVID surges. And so after that 5 years, there's nothing in the guidance that states that vehicle cannot be repurposed. There's nothing stating you have to pay the money back in that 5 years, you dispossess it or anything like that, but there is a 5-year annual reporting requirement.
I would.
I have just
Go ahead.
last one for Mike. Our city ordinances, is there anything preventing, because not every neighborhood has a community park as one example. Is there anything preventing us from parking in a residential neighborhood or the entrance to a residential neighborhood where we could offer the vaccines?
Yeah, there's no ordinance that would prevent us from using this as a public facility. It would be the traffic safety element. And so wherever we park this, we'll have PD and the fire department kind of review the traffic safety situation associated with it. You want people to be able to walk up to it easily. You don't want them have a blind corner. You want to make sure you've got good access, that sort of thing. I guess the other thing that I wanted to mention to you is just to say, remember that as we keep getting predictions, that we should settle in and realize that COVID may be one of these things that we immunize for or boost for, however you want to say it, annually. We can certainly be using this vehicle in year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 for whatever cyclical program we all end up on related to flu vaccination, COVID vaccination, other issues like that. And so we'll have it available. And then, of course, we never want to contemplate other emergencies happening to us. But there are certainly things that might happen in the city, be it tornado or, chlorine leak or anything else major. We will be able to use it as emergency equipment for medical services, for any variety of thing that might happen in the city of Terrell.
Sure, and then I understand that this is a shovel-ready initiative, and there were opportunities or ideas that came forward on if to apply for additional funding, then I would certainly encourage our staff. Well, I don't think they need encouragement. They bring us plenty of good items to get some free money on.
Go ahead.
Just to that point, when this opportunity came available, I know Dustin and I did kind of brainstorm a few different ideas, and so just so everybody knows, staff is always looking for opportunities.
Thank you.
Mayor, did you say?
Yes.
That the deadline to submit your application is the 19th of this month? How soon will you know? I know you said it'd be fairly quickly. If you could give me a guesstimate, I mean, is it a 90-day
Yes, ma'am. And so currently, they hope to make awards, I believe, March 1, for contracts to officially begin on March 15.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Mayor, we should thank City Manager Sims for bringing this item forward. Always our liaison for help, Dustin for organizing it. Seems like a good purpose, and at your pleasure, we're ready to take this item for a vote.
Well, it's a public hearing, so I need to hear comments first, but thank you for addressing the council. At this time, we will open up the public hearing portion of this. Is there anyone here to speak in favor or against item number 8.1? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to item .2, which is the action point. My only comment is say deliver it and we'll use it, right? Is there a motion on item 8.2, discuss and consider a resolution authorizing submission of a community resilience program application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs and designating authorized representatives? Is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 1084 as presented.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there a second?
A second.
Have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is 8.3. Conduct a public hearing regarding a Texas Parks and Wildlife Department Recreation Trails grant application. Again, this is going to be Mr. McAdams. Is that correct? Sorry, Glenn. We've heard from you before, man.
Lynn told me this afternoon, I think it'd be good if council heard from you. They get tired of hearing from me. Again, I'm Jake McAdams with Public Management. This is a very different grant application than the previous one. This is much more traditional and familiar, but it also has a quick timeline. I believe in December, y'all awarded our contract to assist the city in writing this. And so we have been working with staff to put this application together for the Kings Creek Park, specifically applying for funds to install a trail around the park. We did another site visit today. Just so council knows, we probably will go back and tweak that alignment that is in your packet that you see on the screen tomorrow. But we still intend to apply for approximately a half-mile trail. Depending on the budget, it will likely be between 6 and 8 foot wide in Kings Creek Park. This application will be submitted to the Department of Parks and Wildlife, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. I'll get it right here in a minute. This is a maximum of $300,000 grant request. There is a required match on this grant. This grant is an 80-20 matching grant. It's a little unique, but so let's say we have a total project cost of $375,000, okay? The way that splits out is costs are submitted to the agency. The agency will reimburse to the city up to that $300,000 of the $375 total budget, and then that $75,000 would be the city's obligation in that scenario. This application is due on February 1 of 2022. I anticipate we will hear about an award in May or July of 2022. The agencies have not held to their traditional schedules the last couple of years, but I anticipate hearing information of award in the late spring or early summer of 2022. As you may or may not know, much of this park is within a floodplain and floodway. Thank you very much. And so as we discussed and reviewed design options and surfacing, the main components were either a concrete trail or a decomposed granite trail, especially because this area is significantly in the floodplain, and the floodway is right there. There's high concern with the decomposed granite that the trail would be washed out. There would be significant maintenance cost over the life of this trail. And so concrete is what's going to be proposed. The initial install cost is roughly the same with a significantly lower maintenance and operation cost moving forward. There's a variety of details we could discuss, but this is much more of a traditional grant that the city has probably seen previously. And so if council, the public, has any questions, certainly like to address those.
So is it common for these types of trails to be concrete? I know issues that people have with knees, either jogging on or walking on concrete, it makes it more difficult for them.
Yes, sir. Great question. Every department, every trail site has different needs and different concerns. Generally, the most common surfacing for trail throughout the state is going to be dirt, asphalt, decomposed granite, or concrete, just depending upon the intended use and the site conditions, all right? Dirt is not ADA compliant. This trail needs to be ADA compliant, okay? Asphalt, that could be considered. Construction in this area may prove difficult with the equipment necessary to do that, plus it's quite unsightly. I'm not aware of any other asphalt trails like this that the city may have in town. And then we go to that decomposed granite and the concrete. The decomposed granite is a little bit easier, on the joints, but because of the floodway and other maintenance concerns, it is very common, especially along a creek. In flooding areas, you look around all of these green belts that are all over the place now. In flood-prone areas, you typically see concrete because of those maintenance concerns.
I'm just wondering, as I think through it, what we don't want is to create a track for, these kids that are on the skateboards or what,
Sure.
I don't know, or they get going too fast and you have people walking and then you have the accidents or just a bicycle moving really fast through there.
Sure.
On the design portion of it, was some of that considered, or did we just, maybe, I knew I could get Glenn Caldwell up here eventually.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Council, one of the things I want to share with you is, at this point of the process, we want to allow for our consultant procurement to allow us to bring on an engineering firm to further look at that assessment, if that's possible. The main goal and main objective at this stage is to get off to the races, to get the application in so that we can receive those dollars immediately as quickly as possible. So if you don't mind, we'd love to bring that information to you at a later date.
I just want to make sure that we're considering all of that.
Yes, sir.
As we move forward, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, just one question, man. With the concrete, I noticed you used the term significant cost in terms of maintenance. Will concrete be a little bit easier and less?
On the maintenance budget, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Just cost significantly more.
Well, so the install costs between crushed granite and concrete, talking to every contractor or engineer I've always worked with, they've said the install costs are negligible. But the maintenance cost, especially in flood-prone areas where that trail could get washed away, even without that, it gets sloshed over the sides. Occasionally, at least every couple of years, the city will have to have guys buy a load of crushed granite, put it back in, fill the holes, tamp it down. And so that's additional maintenance and operations concern that concrete does not have. And so even if it is slightly more expensive depending on the market, slightly more expensive on the initial install, then over time, concrete does work out cheaper, more durable, and also more accessible, okay? Because another operational concern, hey, we have this big flood, we wash out this crushed granite trail, we got crews all over the place fighting larger fires. Well, we may not be able to get around to this trail. Materials may be back ordered for 2 months, 3 months. Well, that's 3 months that the residents would not be able to use that. And so because of more of the maintenance and operation concerns, concrete is generally installed in these types of areas.
So 2 little notes for everybody. One is, remember, you'll use your park board to review the detailed design of it. And so your park board will see this before you let a contract on it or anything like that. And your park board will have the opportunity to look at it and say, hey, we like that design, we don't like that design. That's an important part of the review process. And then also remember, whenever you're doing a concrete trail, you're normally grading the area maybe 3 feet or 2 feet or so on either side of the concrete that you're pouring out there. And that means that you've got a graded area adjacent to the trail. So what you'll see oftentimes is the people who do have a joint issue, or maybe the joggers, they'll be off on the side of the trail on the grass next to it because you'll have made that area smooth. Glenn will be out there mowing that because you mow the edge of the trail a little bit more frequently than you mow the rest of an area like this. So anyhow, there's more design to be done, and your park board will review that all for you before it comes back to you.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions for either Glenn or Mr. McAdams?
Yes, I certainly understand the difference between the concrete and the decomposed granite. So thank you for that. And when I looked at photos, it looked like typically when you do have the decomposed granite, you also have quite a bit of greenery that's beside it. And I'm assuming that's to also keep the granite in place, and this is a flood-prone area. So I'm in support of having a concrete sidewalk, and this is the park is in the district that I represent. It's always exciting to see when you have a project that's being proposed for your park, and when you know it's something that community members have been asking for, aspects of the project. The one thing that I am disappointed in not seeing in this, and so I'm wondering if we're having conversations where to maybe pull some funding from, is for lighting at this park. And I thought we had discussed lighting, and we're moving forward with that. So if you would re-educate me on where we're at with lighting for this park in the parking area.
Yes, Ms. Councilwoman, one of the things that we discussed early on was acquiring lighting for all of our trails, sidewalk trails at all of our park. So that is not going to change. Obviously, as we progress through this particular project, if things fall in our favor, we may have the opportunity to incur some of that cost at a reimbursement to cover some of the costs of the lighting. So you got to remember, we've got park fund dedication dollars that are available that we're going to utilize there at that particular park, and some other sources that we've committed to and feel very comfortable that we'll be able to provide proper lighting at this location as well as all the other parks. And Breezy Hill is a perfect example of that.
Right, and so I have enjoyed and have found the lighting at the existing trails that we have, or maybe new trails that we have. So the lighting has been useful. Did we purchase lighting for the parking lot at this park already?
They're
That
on
hasn't
back
gone up?
order.
They're
That's
back
correct.
order.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with the
That's correct.
supply chain issues that we're having. The other thing that comes to mind regarding the park here is the potential of adding or extending the trail from where it's currently sitting at to lead to the basketball area, because there's not a way other than to cut across the grass to get there. So is that a conversation that you
Yes.
had and where that led?
If you would, Glenn, so that is something we evaluated, and I would discourage the city applying for funding within this grant to do that. Primarily because the basketball court is within the floodway, and because of the federal regulations and intent of this specific program, I think that would count against us, if not possibly completely deter funding of that. I would recommend the city consider some kind of additional opportunities to complete that.
So I'll share with council, if you get an opportunity, if you go out to Kings Creek Park, we've already made the connectivity from the parking to the playground
Yes.
area currently. We've also made the connection from that particular sidewalk that progresses to the playground area over to a seating area and the barbecue grill. So bringing that sidewalk to the basketball court is just a part of what we're planning to do, regardless with the dollars that we have. So once the trail goes in, we're going to be prepared to give people accessibility to the basketball court.
So for this particular grant, it would really go against us in the point system.
Just
believe
as a point of order, this is just to give a thumbs up so we can apply for the grant. And everything else, extra trails, extra lighting, can all be negotiated after, right?
Great point. Job one is to get the grant, and this is the green light for staff to go apply for the grant. And then I know some of you are flipping ahead to the page that maybe O'Meara can take me to that's got the chart on it, the table with the costs. So remember, one of the things that you'll do here is that you'll actually have to have your own local match. That's that $75,000 in there. And then you'll probably also have to have some in-kind match. And what we mean by that is things that you're doing that are just additional to make the thing all round out and work together. So I would expect that your park board's going to say, plant some trees out here when you do this, and protect the northern edge of your trail from the eventual noise from Interstate 20, da-da-da. So there'll be some tree planting, and again, those elements, anything else that's pedestrian lighting or something like that, that gets reviewed by the park board before you let any contracts. But we do want to make sure we budget some in-kind funds that are basically money we will spend that doesn't have grant strings attached to it, because sometimes the grant strings are make it difficult for us to get the result the community wants.
From our side is, as you notice, there's no dollars specifically identified for the administration. That is included in the $375,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, again, this is a public hearing, so we will open up the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone here to speak on the grant associated with Kings Creek? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. This time, we'll move on to the discuss and consider portion of it. This is going to be resolution number 1085, and it is to authorize submission of a Texas Parks and Wildlife Department Recreation Trails Grant application. Is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 1085 as presented.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem, District 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is 8.4, discuss and consider, no, I'm sorry. Are we at 8.5?
Yes.
Yeah, to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding proposed criteria and redistricting of political boundaries for the city of Terrell. This is going to be Mr. Sims.
So Mayor and Council, there's a lot of material here. The first one, and I thank O'Meara for bringing it up, is the initial assessment for redistricting. And so that's the memo that you saw last time. You saw Eric McGee last time around sort of talk to you about what that is all about. So I'm not going to belabor that, but I think that's great reading material about where we stand and what we're trying to accomplish here. And it also has some data in it. So if you pause on that page for me real quick. I did want to make sure that we drew your attention to an item I handed out for you. This is a little bit hard to read, and there's an error on the one that's in the packet. So the one that's sitting at your spot, this is this extra piece of paper here. Eric McGee was kind enough to email this to Mary Gail and I just about an hour ago. And so, I don't know, hour ago, but maybe at 4 o'clock or so. And it gives you the better update on this, and it's a little bit easier to read in this format. So look at the top of this sheet, and remember your goal here is the total maximum deviation, the number shown in blue, 3.23. And Omar, go back to the map. That's the easiest thing to look at. There you go. So let's just kind of walk through here. Your goal is, if the world were perfect, you'd have 4,366 people living in each district. World's not perfect. You're never going to draw lines where it's perfectly 4,366 people or persons per district. So what you do is this little analysis that says that, well, the actual population of District 2 is 4,324. The ideal is 4,366. Which means you've got a deviation of minus 42. You got 42 fewer people in District 2 than you might have in an absolute ideal world, okay? So that's kind of how you're reading that sheet. District 3 would be your other example. Here they are over by 74. District 4 is over by 36. District 5 is under by 67. So the, quote, smallest district by population is District 5. And the biggest district by population is District 3. So there's your maximum deviation. It's the distance between the guy who's over and the district that's over and the district that's under, okay? So that's the 1.69 and the 1.54. That's that distance between the two numbers that Mr. McGee was talking about when he was here. And then you can see the breakdown by Anglo, Black, Hispanic, so on, in each district, and that gives you a sense about, okay, what are we doing with minority voting rights? Are we doing the right thing? Are we being attentive to that topic correctly? And I don't want to rehash the entire memo or Mr. McGee's presentation, but this was just a good visual way to look at it and sort of identify that. Meanwhile, as I told you before, one of the things that we've heard from voters in the city of Terrell is that occasionally there is confusion about, well, wait a minute, District 4523, that's actually the same numbering system that the school board uses for its districts. You got 3 is 3, 2 matches with 2, 4 matches with 4, 5 matches with 5. And so there is occasionally confusion for folks who live on the boundary edges of that. And so while we are actually very good statistically, you want to have that total maximum deviation be under 5%. We're at 3.23, and that's what we learned last time around. Remember, we said, well, there's no actual requirement that we redistrict. So we're really looking at this and asking ourselves the question, do we want to redistrict? And we're just going through the analytics of that now. So there's an item in here, if you'll go a couple more pages in, and what you'll find is what the school district did. So if you go just a little bit further, there you go. There was a resolution passed by the school district. Mr. Darrell Coleman is your general counsel for the school district. He's here today. Mr. Coleman, thank you for being present today. I appreciate that very much. So we wanted them to go first. We wanted to get them be allowed to get their redistricting completed. The next page, I think, has their map. And this is just a map zoomed in of the central area. The red lines are the old lines, and the colors on this are the new districts, okay? So you can say their District 5 looks relatively unchanged in this area. Their District 4, clearly it lost a little bit of ground over on the east side of State Highway 34. It gained a little bit of ground on the west side of State Highway 34. You can see that it also lost some land area on the very south end of the district. So that's basically Bryn down to Moore, no longer being in their old District 4. You can see that their District 3, again, gave up a little bit of land to what is now District 4, it gained a little bit of land away from the other district over there, District 4, right in what I would call around the Terry Barber Commissioner barn area, and running along where, I guess I'd call that where Pops is. So then you look at their District 2. Their District 2 really gained land going up from Moore to Bryn. So those are the changes on their map. And outside of this map, their district really stayed the same. We did provide a little bit bigger look at that for you in some other maps that we emailed out today. So again, if you take a look at it, I've got another map in here, so go one more page for us, please. There's the bigger map of the school board if you want to see their full boundaries. And then the next map is our districts. So this is where you got to start thinking about, okay, if you want to match their area, remember the voter confusion zone is outside of the area. It's in the very southern part of what you're seeing here. The confusion typically has been that the ISD uses as a boundary between 2 and 3, Gilbert and University, whereas our districts basically use Crenshaw as a boundary between District 2 and District 3. So that's been the area where we've heard voters come forward. They'll go down to Kaufman County and they'll say, hey, wait a minute, you're making me vote in the wrong district because you've given me incorrect information. Those are the only actual voter complaints we've heard since the last time we redid districts. So here, again, you got to study this and say to yourself, well, wait a minute, what could we possibly change? If you make any changes to number 5, that means that, well, number 5 is down 67 voters right now. So if you make any changes, you really shouldn't make changes that make 5 smaller. You're going to make changes that make 5 slightly larger. Same thing with District 2. District 2 is down 42 voters now. So if you're going to make an amendment or a change, District 2 needs to get a little bigger, not a little smaller. And then the opposite would be true for Districts 4 and Districts 3. So is it actually possible to make changes to our map to match the school district map? So if you pop back over to that school district map. So could we make changes as shown here and have a better situation for our voters? Well, that's the question we've asked to the law firm. And Mr. Coleman was kind enough to get us the shape files, the GIS files that make up their mapping system. We've transmitted those over to our law firm, and so they're doing an analysis right now, which we'll have for you by the time next week rolls around. And that analysis will basically give you this piece of paper, okay, for, well, what if we change to match the school district in this sort of central core part of the city? Does it make the analysis a little bit better? Does it make the analysis a little bit worse? Okay? And that's just a pure analytical question that we'll have an answer to shortly. And I'd tell you that I think that's the next thing that you're going to want to see in terms of the analytics associated with this situation. So all of that said, what would you be considering today, and what would you be considering next week? So remember, we've got 2 public hearings going on, because we wanted to do all of these public hearing style, put it in the newspaper, make sure people could come forward if they wanted to. Today, this public hearing, all of that was background information. Today's public hearing is criteria for redistricting of political boundaries. And so that's going to be questions like, well, what factors are we looking at? Deviation of no more than 10%, deviations of maximum deviation, trying to achieve a 5% rule. And again, this is in your packet, so I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You've got items 1 through 13 of different criteria. Where possible, use well-recognized and long-used election precinct boundaries. So for example, for years and years and years, State and Rockwall have been boundaries. For years and years, South Rockwall has been a boundary. So you would create voter confusion rather than helping voter confusion by going off some of those long, well-established boundaries. On the other hand, when you kind of get back over to a major road like State Highway 34, that probably helps voter confusion to make an adjustment like that. Polling places being convenient, and so all today is to take a look at the establishing criteria for redistricting of political boundaries and say, okay, this technical list created by our law firm, reviewed by your own city attorneys, this is a reasonable set of criteria if you should so happen to decide to redistrict. So again, this is like putting our rules of decorum in place. We need to have criteria that are objective criteria voted on and approved by council before we even consider moving forward. That sets us up for next week, and next week is the second one, and that's going to be the question about, do you even want to order redistricting or not? So tonight we're not voting on should we redistrict. Tonight we're only voting on, well gosh, if we do redistrict, here's some criteria we want to use to make sure it's a clean-cut, good, strong, legally sound, analytical process to redistrict. So that's my overview for you. I know it's a bit of a messy procedure, but we are following a complicated set of state and federal laws related to this topic, and so we want to kind of condense that as much as possible for you. So that's my presentation as an introductory item to the public hearing, sir.
Thank you, Mike. So again, this is a public hearing. So before we actually get in discussion, let's go ahead and open up. But before I do, I would like to thank Mr. Coleman for being here. Do you have anything you'd like to add, sir?
Nothing really. I'd just like to thank Councilmember Simpson for participating in our committee and Mayor Pro Tem Velasquez for participating in one of our public hearings of the committee as well. Both the representatives were very helpful.
Well, thank you. We always want to be supportive of what the school district is doing as we move forward. So at this time, we will open up the public hearing for discussion. Is there anyone to speak for or against the criteria for redistricting of political boundaries for the city of Terrell? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and allow council to discuss.
Mayor, really until I think we get the analytics on it, I don't really see how, that's gonna kind of give us a more holistic view of how we need to make our decision. Right now, we sit and discuss it all night, we just be talking outside of our necks, you know?
Right. No, I agree with you. I think we should move, we should wait until we get that. But as far as the criteria goes and what we're going to use in order to get the information tomorrow, does anybody have any, or next week, does anybody have any comment?
Why would we vote on the criteria if we don't even know if, as a council, we would like to redistrict?
Well, because we need to have some type of guidelines for, we're going to get a map that's going to show if we wanted to redistrict, this is what it would look like. Those guys are going to need some kind of guidance as they look at it.
Yeah, and I would just tell you, the advice that we always get from legal counsel on redistricting goes like this. There are so many court cases, so many challenges, so many laws that are difficult to manage. They really ask you legally, just be methodical. Vote on your decorum rules, vote on the establishing criteria, then decide this. And if you can show the public in a court case, not that I think that we're going to end up at a court case, but if you can show a court that you've used a methodical process that's laid out, that's basically identical to every other client of this law firm, you've got a great defensible position. So it's just being methodical and following a process here.
Yeah, and it may be that we decide not to move forward with changing or redistricting because it may create more of a challenge for those than it does solve anything. I have some concerns a little bit about moving the lines as they exist currently. So, but I want to reserve my thoughts until I get all the information back. I think it'd be wise for all of us. Is there any?
I had a similar concern and was wanting to hear from Mary Gail on whether having, and I'm thinking in legal terms, so I'm glad you mentioned, someone mentioned, Mike or Mayor mentioned legal cases in the past, and whether establishing the criteria for redistricting would be favorable if we were doing things in a way that was, we were doing things properly. Moving forward, if we were to redistrict, or if it would be better not to put these in place. And then also, if moving forward with putting forth the criteria in place now, kind of alluded or to a certain extent in the legal field kind of indicated that you were planning to redistrict because you put these in place.
Councilwoman, I think what the purpose of these are is that the council is expressing its intention. In fact, that's what it says, that in the event that you do decide to move forward with redistricting, that you measure any redistricting plan by this set of criteria. And this set of criteria also says at the very beginning that we would ensure that all applicable provisions of the law, the U.S. Constitution, the Texas Constitution, the Voting Rights Act, and the Texas Election Code are all considered and are honored. So I think this does not require you to redistrict. It just says in the event we do decide to move forward with redistricting, these are the criteria that the council will consider in moving forward.
Yeah, you also have to look at it from the point of view of saying, well, wait a minute, what criteria did you use if you decided not to redistrict? And it's really essentially the same list, right? You should be able to look at this list right here and say, well, gee, if I'm following this set of criteria, our current boundaries are actually better. They don't want you to just say, we think our current boundaries are fine. They want you to have a reason, a set of criteria for saying our current boundaries are the best way to serve the public. And this set of criteria is designed to be able to serve that purpose.
In my opinion, I think the easiest thing to do would be say, is we receive the data, we don't see a need for it, so let's don't do it. However, we open ourselves up for controversy and questions when we don't take that extra step to make sure, to ensure that we looked at every possible outcome of the redistricting and then made our decision. So I think we should move forward with it and then make a decision based on what we get from the lawyers that are looking at it, taking that information and then deciding whether or not we're going to redistrict or not.
Yep.
And it may be that we decide not to do it.
So in reading this document, it sounds, just as Attorney Mayor Gill indicated, that it's language that can be found in other legal areas regarding redistricting. It wasn't that we said, oh, number 4 is not in there, but it looks good, and we're going to put it in there as well. Add that language to here. It's all really language that's already part of the legal redistricting process.
That's correct.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so we are now at item 8.6, discuss and consider proposed criteria for redistricting of political boundaries for the city of Terrell. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve item 8.6.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there a second?
A second.
I have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Next item on the agenda.
Mayor, can I just say
Yes.
real quick, I wanted to add at the end of this conversation, Mr. McGee, who's your attorney on this from Allison Bass McGee, he'll be at your meeting on the 11th to help you go through the next step in this conversation. So again, thank you, Mr. Coleman, for being here, and I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for taking time to come to the council meeting. We really appreciate you. Our next item is item 9.1, discuss city council board assignments. Is this going to be
That's you.
me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, let's go to our assignments, just like we did for Pro Tem and we did for Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. We have some old appointments, as you know. who shouldn't be on there. The library board is currently Charles Whitaker. If there's no objection from the council, I would move to approve.
We did some discussion this time, and we'll be voting next time.
Oh, is this not a?
Yeah.
Well, for us to consider, as we vote next week, of moving Stephanie Holmes Thomas into the library position, overseeing that board. And then we're just open up for discussion on the others. Anybody have any discussion?
I'd be very surprised to not have somebody at a PhD level on serving as the library liaison. And if I misnamed the title there, forgive me. But it seems very, very fitting. It is a discussion item, and I look forward to voting at the next time around. I'd like to say it. I'd like to, since we're discussing all the board assignments, I'd like to keep my zoning board of adjustments, TIF, Power Center, and planning and zoning. So I feel like.
So Pro Tem, I see, doesn't want to give up anything. Does anybody else want to give up one?
So I would like to
Yes.
to join Mayrani and say, hey, I really like my boards. Hey, I
Okay.
really got on council because I was in the youth programs before council, and parks are kind of what led me to council, so I'd like to continue with parks.
Okay.
And I like building standards, but man, if someone wants it, you can fight me for it, and I'd be okay.
So that's why this is a discussion item. Let's go, council. I need to hear from you. Grady, are you good? Hey, and there's nothing wrong with, if somebody wanted to change, for us to open that up and discuss it for a lot of different reasons, right? Sometimes we get busier, we have other things going on, and if you need to lighten your load, as to say, then this would be the time to let me know that, and then we can move forward at next week's meeting.
In the spirit of lightening the load and with an earlier item that we discussed and being changes, I would be open to, also offloading zoning board of adjustments. If somebody else would like to take that on, and if not, then I certainly would continue to be a liaison to it.
Okay, thank you, Pro Tem. Mr. Simpson?
Oh, Mayor, everything has worked real well up to this point. I always thought in the past that we can probably maybe rotate some of these, but to me, it really doesn't seem any need to try to change anything. Everything seemed to be really, really well.
Here's what my hope for us moving forward in 2022 is that the council members who are responsible for the boards would build a relationship with that chairperson for that board, so that if we have discussion on Tuesday nights, that you give a little insight as to what maybe the chairman is feeling on some of these items and/or on some of these reappointments moving forward. I think we can do a little bit more proactive work there. I know I intend to start 2022 reaching out to all the chairmen just to say, hey, thank you for your service. Be good if you would do the same as a council member to these chair people. Again, they are volunteering their time. We want to make sure that they know that they're appreciated for their hard work. We ask them to take time off from their family to chair some of these meetings. And we're here to help them and assist them to continue to have the city that we all hope for. Any further discussion?
Hey, Mayor, I would
Yes.
say, and maybe Mr. Sims, a while back we did, I believe, I don't know whether it was in the form of an email or just our calendars and our agendas, we used to get a monthly synopsis, if you will, of the upcoming board meetings. I would say we're all busy, and I'm afraid sometimes we just they get overlooked. So I'm not sure what position in the city used to email us, but if we could get a rundown of the meetings, all the meetings before that month, that'd be great, because that just lets us plan accordingly.
Great comment. I'll make sure that happens. And then just in terms of being a listener here, I think that what I hear is that staff will make the change from Charles Whitaker to Stephanie Holmes Thomas on the library one, and then we'll bring it back to you on January the 11th and allow you guys to just vote on that. It won't be valid till you vote on it, but we'll change the name and ask for your vote next week.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda, discuss upcoming board appointments and vacancies. Again, Mr. Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, this is just a alert. If you see a name on here, we either haven't been able to get it filled and voted on since it expired, or maybe it's about to expire. So you can look forward to your your January 11th meeting and your January 18th meeting, as staff will be putting these on there and asking for votes on these. So if you've got any questions or information, or if one of these is your board, reach out to me or Dora or to Dawn and ask a question or gain some information, because we will need to get some votes on these right away.
And it looks like Councilwoman Stephanie Holmes Thomas is going to have the most.
I'd say
That was
Charles
purely-
Whitaker's been down on his job,
That was
right?
purely
So-
accidental, Councilwoman. It was not, we didn't set you up for that, but it looks like you got some work going. Joe Perry, Cindy Oakley are termed out, and we certainly want to say thank you to those two members who are long-term residents of Terrell, and for their ability to volunteer and help us moving forward, as is Jerry Wiley. If you live in Terrell or been a long-time resident, you'll recognize a lot of these people's names, and that's good to see. It's good to see that we have citizens who care and volunteer and help us out when we need to. So again, we just need to take a look at those names and decide what we're going to do moving forward.
I would like to give the library kudos, because in their last 2, maybe 3 new email newsletters, they've done blurbs about library board positions or members, seeking board members, since we knew we were having some term out. And I wonder if, or certainly would recommend that if we could work with public information and those individual departments, especially since they may have individuals that come in and out of the library or the airport, maybe a flyer or something that we could display, especially since if they have an interest in that area, maybe they might be willing to put their name in the hat for one of these.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So we have no executive. We are adjourned. Oh, COVID? Where do you have it?
COVID's not gone.
10.1.
Oh, you're right. 10.1, discuss current case counts and vaccination efforts. I did not want to hear from our emergency management coordinator. Would you please come forward?
Thank you for having me.
Is that what that is?
I wanted him to wait and then just send him home without doing it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and COVID, and just table it. I like it. Maybe we can just do that. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have heard of COVID or not. It's been around. So it just so happens that the first numbers that were given to us in a council meeting format was actually a year ago today, or tomorrow actually. So we're gonna look back into the past, then we're gonna look at where we are today. So if we looked at the numbers or the graphs from today, you would see that we've kind of had this up and down on the 7-day average. We do really well, and then we back off, and then we come back again. Those happen with the variants that come along, and then you also see them in vaccinations. So the first thing that you see is the case counts from January. Is this the first slide? Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry, it's my fault. Just can't read. Okay, there we go. So the first slide. So this is from January a year ago. So if you look kind of the way the numbers have run, we had, that, like I said, that peak and then a drop, and then we were back up. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is numbers as of today. These are state numbers, not county numbers. The way we receive our county numbers aren't the same way as it used to be, so we can't really differentiate like we used to be able to. But what I can tell you is that about 15 days ago, our numbers were about 100 active cases in the county, and we're up to around 500 active cases in the county now. So in the process of 2 weeks, our numbers have really jumped up. That can be from a lot of things, right? We weren't doing a very good job of social distancing as we come out of the holidays. As we were in the holidays, and numbers usually have about a 6 day turn. So if we go back a week, we were coming right out of Christmas and spending lots of time with family, so we saw a spike in numbers. If you look at the top left, the pink graph, the yellow line there is the 7-day average, and our yellow line, our 7-day average, is higher than where our peak was back in September. So you can see that our numbers are way up. The number that is really good, if you look at the bottom right, which is the reported fatality, that 7-day trend didn't make the trip up. Didn't make the trip up like the new cases did, so that's really good. We are a little bit ahead of that curve. The trend for fatalities usually increases after the trend for new case counts starts to fall, just because there is a little bit of lag time there. But we're not seeing the upward tick, which we did see in the previous 2 peaks, so it's actually still kind of on its way down. So that can be attributed to a lot of things. Most of it's going to be vaccinations. The other is that we're just doing better at protecting our more vulnerable populations. You can go to the next slide. These are hospital numbers a year ago. So if you look at that, we're in the same path. So a year ago we were just kind of on that upward trend, and then if you come back to the next slide. There we go. So this is now. So you see we went up and down and then back up, and our upward streak here for the new January, for the Omicron, doesn't seem to be as sharp, and we've attributed a lot of that to vaccination too, which we didn't have a year ago. Right? Vaccination just wasn't the same. Go ahead. These are the confirmed cases in Kaufman County from a year ago. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And same thing. So you see that we've seen the up and down trend. The blue lines, the bar graph, represents daily case counts, where the actual line graph represents the 7-day average. So you can see that our 7-day average is higher than where we were in the last 2 peaks, but our daily case counts aren't as high. So we just have kind of a more consistent growth. Go ahead to the next slide. This is the 15% number that the governor's order used a year ago. So you can see we were well above that 15% in hospitalizations, and then you can go one more slide. And they changed us from a bar graph to a line graph, so sorry about that. But if you can see it there, we're just right at the 15% line now in hospitalizations. They have seen more hospitalizations in the adolescent and children populations than they had with the previous numbers. So there is kind of an uptick in the hospitalization numbers as far as COVID go. Go to the next slide. Okay, so vaccination. We're up around a little over 42,000 total vaccinations through our CDC allotment. We are having zero problem getting vaccine. I order it and it's here the same week. So if I place an order on Monday, I receive it on Thursday. So we're having no problem getting vaccine in, and we're having no problem giving vaccine out. Somebody wants an appointment or just shows up at the office, we're given vaccines. We have not had to turn anyone away. We're sitting like about 7,000 total doses in the freezer right now. And then there are 1,100 total Pfizer doses in the deep freeze. So we have plenty of vaccine to give, and we're going to continue that effort. We've moved our vaccination site from the drive-through site at the municipal airport to the new fire administration office on 9th Street. We'd been seeing about 12 people a day for vaccine. It had been really slow. We put out a flashy new flyer for the new location. We wanted people to see that we were changing locations. And our first day at our new location saw us give almost 60 shots. So it was 45 people more than we had seen in the previous like 5 weeks. So it caught us off guard. We weren't really prepared for that. So it was a really busy day. It also showed us how much we really missed the drive-through portion of that instead of having the walk up and trying to coordinate that. But it's leveled off. So last week we saw 25 people at the site, and we had them just stay in their cars, and we came out to them to vaccinate, and that worked really well. We have like 15 people on the schedule for tomorrow. So we expect we'll see about 30 people tomorrow. We usually see double the number just because of walk-ups. The drive-through clinic, so 800 Airport Road, still a place for us. We reached out to Texas Military Force for staffing to be able to do a large-scale drive-through operation like we did out at the college, but at the newly remodeled 800 Airport Road. There was an issue with the team that they were sending us. We were hoping to do that the second week of January. We have that tentatively scheduled for the 21st of January. We're waiting on confirmation on a Texas Military Force team so that we have the staff to give those vaccinations. And once we have that done, we'll get all the advertisement out, and that'll be a Saturday operation. So it'll be one of our first weekend operations since the Trinity Valley Community College. So we're hoping that we can drum up some vaccinations doing that. Yes, ma'am. On Wednesdays is the day that we're for sure going to have someone there to give vaccines. We've had some instances where a group of people weren't able to make it on Wednesday, and so they called and asked if we could do it on a different day, and we obviously we want to support that wherever we can. So it's not to say that we won't, but the day that we have staff dedicated for vaccinations is Wednesday from 8 to noon. And it is not by appointment only. We prefer that you have an appointment just because it does make paperwork easier, but no one has been turned away because they haven't done appointments.
Thank you. I may be jumping ahead here, but I believe, is it at the county with support of Chamber Outlet is going to be doing, is it a vaccination or a testing?
It's a testing program. It starts on the 10th. It'll be Monday through, is it Thursday or Friday? Monday through Friday from 9 to 4, and they're going to be doing the rapid test and the PCR test. And I'm not sure if I put that on a slide or not. I just found out about that today. So
that's at Shops at Terrell?
The Shops at Terrell.
And what store is it close to at Shops?
Is it going to be the same place? Okay.
Next door to Crocs at Shops at Terrell.
Repeat the dates.
It'll be on the 10th. It'll start on the 10th, right? It'll start on the 10th, and it'll be Monday through Friday from 9 until 4, and they're doing rapid and PCR tests there.
That's until we hear otherwise. It will continue until we hear otherwise.
Yeah, this time they didn't have an end date scheduled like they did with the last one. So.
Because I don't get utility calls about where can I get vaccinations necessarily, but I certainly have been receiving calls about where can I get tested, and if you, it's either urgent in Terrell or urgent in Forney, and I'm talking, when they're looking for free, when I looked this late afternoon, it was Monday or Tuesday at Walmart in Rockwall, or CVS in Rockwall, Walgreens in Rockwall, or Rowlett, so they're pretty far booked. We have become used to those being available the day of,
Absolutely.
the day later, now it's a couple days out.
So we sent an email to the state this morning asking for a drive-through testing opportunity like we used to have. Maybe it's not every day of the week, but if we can get a couple of days a week, drive-through down at the municipal airport or wherever it is, we really think that'd be beneficial. And the response back that I got was that they had set up the site at the Shops at Terrell, and that they would look at the possibility of doing a drive-through site also. So we'll wait to see what that looks like. So I don't believe that the MOU that the county has for that project allows for that. But the last thing that I heard from the state was that they did have small operations that could do single-day testing for large sites. But that's been a few weeks ago, so I'm not sure if that's something that is still a possibility or not.
Hey, Dustin, would it be possible for us to talk to our county partners and maybe us advertise our Wednesday vaccine clinic, if you will, at the shops at Terrell, just whether we do it on phone board or however we want to advertise, but apparently vaccine is the kind of way out of this mess, maybe.
Sure, so we printed flyers. I'm gonna have them laminated tomorrow, and then gonna go visit with the guy that we know at the shops at Terrell and see if we can have them put up on the window at the testing site. So they're the same flyers that we've put on Facebook that are on the city's website now. We've put them down at the municipal airport just for people who do still show up down there. And we'll just continue to push that out. Absolutely.
Anyone else?
I think I have just a couple more things. So we're still doing the mobile clinics with the long-term care facilities, any of the long-term care facilities that don't have contracts with the pharmacies to be able to do vaccinations inside their facility. We're still partnering with them to do that. The school district reached out to me today, Terrell ISD, to do another booster clinic. And it's about time to be able to do boosters for kids too, now that those have been approved. So we'll be setting up something with them. And then we send out the normal email out to the other school districts offering it up. We have a mobile clinic going to happen down in Maybank again. We did one back in November, and we're going to try to do one in January for them. Our partner communities, so looking at Forney and Kaufman and any of the other communities that want to host something, we're happy to do that for them since we have the CDC access. And then community outreach. So I have a meeting with the Ministerial Alliance on Wednesday, so we'll talk to the pastors there. And then I know Allison is still sending stuff out too, so we'll just keep reaching out to the churches where we can there. Next slide.
Well, there's two groups of the ministers, right? There's Minister Alliance, and then there's the Union. Minister. Let's make sure we reach out to both.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the Ministerial Alliance invited me tomorrow to come and speak about sheltering, and so we're going to talk about vaccinations while we're there. And then the last thing is the new CDC guideline, because it's been a pretty hot topic. It caught us off guard. We didn't expect the change to come so quickly, but the new guideline for for isolation for those who have been exposed and those who test positive for COVID-19 basically says that the greatest risk is in the 1 to 2 days prior to symptoms start. So isolation for those who test positive is 5 days, as long as they're symptom-free, which is 24 hours without fever or the loss of major symptoms. So 5 days worth of isolation followed by 5 days of strict mask wearing, and then they can return to normal life. And then those that are quarantined if you're vaccinated. So they updated the definition of vaccinated, which is a little confusing to kind of work your way through. But if you have received both doses and it has only been 6 months or less than 6 months from your second dose, then you're considered vaccinated. If it's been more than 6 months since your second dose of the mRNA, which is Pfizer or Moderna, if it's been more than 6 months, then you are considered unvaccinated. Unless you have received your booster. So those people that are late to the game and getting vaccinated who have just received their second dose, they have 6 months that they're considered vaccinated, and then after that, they're supposed to get a booster. If you are vaccinated, there's no need to quarantine, but you should wear a mask for 10 days if you're unable to maintain social distancing. If you're unvaccinated or haven't received your booster when you should have received your booster, then you are to quarantine for 5 days, followed by 5 days of mask wearing, as long as you experience no symptoms.
So can we put this on our website, please?
So we're trying to find a way that is, that's a little more clear, because the CDC document reads like a government document. It's just not very clear. So we're trying to find a way that communicates this a little more clearly, and then we're going to get that out to Allison to go.
So absolutely, we'll do that in Spanish and English. And then the other point there is that this does mean that the internal memo that I issue from time to time to try to keep up with the CDC rules, we're also going to make some minor modifications to that so that we're, in line with the latest and greatest from the CDC. So that'll be a staff update coming soon as well.
Can I clarify something for everybody or those that may not know? Is the vaccine, the second dose, and the boosters all the same?
They're the exact same medication. If you're a Moderna booster, you get a half dose for your booster. If you're a Pfizer, you get the full dose. The booster is the full dose. It is the same vial.
But didn't I hear it's okay to mix them?
It is okay to mix them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the intent of that is that if you're unable to access the Pfizer, but you can readily access the Moderna, then please get the Moderna so that you have a booster. Same way the other direction. We've had very few people who have wanted to mix them. There's some though. They're like, hey, the other two worked great. Let's get the other one. Then we got both, and we're, I guess whatever works for. But you can absolutely mix the mRNAs.
Yeah. Well, always, Connor, thank you for your briefings and your leadership in dealing with COVID-19. I look forward to the day that you come up and give a presentation other than COVID. Right?
Yeah, I was just
on
glad
a more
that
often.
I started the night with not COVID.
I know, and I appreciated that. So, thank you for your hard work, Chief, yours, and all the staff. Right, as we look at, and I talked to other mayors and county judges about how COVID was handled. I'm so proud of the fact that we were out front on just about everything. So, job well done, Mike, and everybody associated with the city. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next item, we have no executive session. We are adjourned.